The first thing I want to do is introduce myself. My name is Nora Matson, and I'm a partner manager here at Facebook. That means I work with advertising agencies to help them implement best practices and the right kinds of products to really drive success for their clients. I have an agency background myself, particularly in digital analytics and measurement, so I'm really familiar with tracking and measurement opportunities, and I'm really excited to present to you on the Facebook Pixel today, which is a really unique measurement solution. So quick overview of today's agenda. We're going to start off with just a really quick high level on why you need the Facebook Pixel. I know a lot of you guys are using third-party reporting tools like Google Analytics, DoubleClick, Seismic to report on your advertising activities. But you really need the Facebook Pixel in addition to those, so we're going to cover that. We're also going to talk about the Facebook Pixel itself, what's launched, what's changed, what stayed the same, and what you need to do coming out of this webinar to make sure you're set up for success. That's going to be a pretty heavy section, so we're going to pause for Q&A. Then I'm going to do a quick overview of troubleshooting, some tools that you can use to really get a quick view of if your Pixel is working or not. And then I'm going to talk about some measurement and optimization options, some more advanced solutions that the Facebook Pixel enables and makes easier. And then we're going to close out with another round of Q&A, assuming we have time. So let's get right into it. So I want to take a little bit of a step back and talk about measurement for digital media and advertising in general. There are sort of two main ways that digital media has been measured sort of by default in the industry. The first is via click. So this is either just measuring pure clicks and click-through rate as a main KPI, or using click-based conversion attribution. So this is something like a Google Analytics where we're using referral traffic to measure the effectiveness of advertising channels. So a user sees an ad on Facebook or on Google or on Yelp, wherever they might be, they click through and they make a purchase in that single session. And that's the way a lot of advertisers are tracking their marketing spend. Unfortunately, this doesn't account for the large number of users who we know are influenced by ads, influenced by impressions, and might ultimately convert based on that, but are never going to click. They're just not clicky people. In fact, we see that 99% of people who see a Facebook ad and purchase as a result never clicked on it at all. So if you're measuring clicks as your proxy for conversion or as your sort of means to conversion, you're missing out on a lot of your value. The other way that people have tended to measure digital marketing is based on cookies. So they use multi-touch attribution vendors and people to do tracking who are using cookies to say when did a certain user interact with a brand, what were the touch points, either impressions or clicks, and did they ultimately lead to a conversion? And these cookie-based models are really great at understanding desktop browser behavior. They're really good at tracking the different impressions along that, at tracking those browser-based impressions, but they miss a lot of the value in that they aren't able to track between desktop and mobile touch points in the campaign. And based on Atlas research we've done, we see that 21% of your conversions aren't captured when you rely on that cookie-based measurement. So that's 21% of the value you're driving for your business or you're driving for your client that you're not capturing when you're using a cookie-based methodology. So what is the best way to measure digital marketing? At Facebook, we believe that to measure the true impact of your ads, you need to understand people. And Facebook is in a unique position to be able to offer this type of measurement. Users trust us with their real identity. So on Facebook, I am Nora Matson, Austin resident, live music aficionado on all my devices, on my desktop computer, my tablet that I use at home, my smartphone, my couple of smartphones, let's be fair. And so we're really able to measure each of the touch points that an individual user has with your brand and then how it leads to conversion. And the way you can leverage this people-based measurement solution is via the Facebook Pixel. So let's talk quickly about the benefits of the Facebook Pixel. The first one is it allows you to measure ROI across browsers and devices. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but it's really a key point. So imagine the case that's sort of very typical of a consumer in line at Starbucks browsing their mobile newsfeed. They see a Nordstrom's ad, for a pair of shoes that they're interested in. They think they look cool. They click on the ad, browse around, look at a couple of different colors, maybe select their size, but then their coffee's ready, they click out, and they don't ultimately make a purchase. A couple of days later, they're still thinking about that pair of shoes, and they go to their desktop computer at work, make the purchase, and get them shipped off to their home. That's a very typical user behavior pattern that we are able to capture via Facebook's Pixel. So we're able to tell you not only did that conversion happen, but that conversion is attributed to the mobile ad that they saw 2 days ago and clicked on. So this is a really important way to really attribute the full scale of your marketing efforts on Facebook and get the full conversion value from that. We're also able to optimize delivery to users who are most likely to convert. So this is optimized for conversion bidding, essentially, and what it does is it tells the Facebook algorithm, go out and find users in my target audience who look and behave most like the people who've already converted on my ad. So this is a great way to make your campaigns much more efficient and to drive conversions in a very efficient way. In fact, we've seen that advertisers who use this optimized for conversion bidding get 40% lower CPAs than people who bid on a cost per click. So using that Facebook Pixel to make your campaigns more efficient is one of the key benefits. And then finally, the Facebook Pixel allows for the creation of custom and lookalike audiences. So you're able to find audiences of people who visited your website, and not only that, but who've done particular actions. So not only have they been to your homepage, but they've browsed a particular product, or they've looked at a certain blog post, or they watched a video. And then you're able to take those seed audiences and find people who look and behave most like them based on 2,000 plus different factors. So this is a great way to both find people who are really engaged with your brand, who are the lowest hanging fruit and have already shown interest by being on your webpage, and then to scale out that effort by finding people who look and behave most like them. So now that we've talked about why you need Facebook tracking and measurement, and I'm sure you're all totally convinced, we are going to move on to talking about the new Facebook Pixel. So this is the single Facebook Pixel that you are going to need moving forward. What is it? The Facebook Pixel is at its core an all-inclusive solution. So you may be aware that in the past we have had two different Pixel products that we've used. The first is a custom audience pixel, and that pixel was used for audience retargeting. You were able to find people who'd been to your website, who'd been to particular URLs on your website, and retarget them. Most recently, we also enabled dynamic product ads based on that custom audience pixel, so that you could show users the specific products they'd looked at. Let's say they looked at a particular hat on your site, you'd be able to show them that hat and products like it in their newsfeed. The second pixel we had was a conversion pixel, and that enabled conversion tracking, so measuring the actions you wanted a user to take, attributing it back to Facebook advertising, and doing that conversion optimization we just talked about. What the Facebook Pixel does is combine all that functionality plus a couple of new ones. So it's a single piece of HTML code for your website that enables you to measure and optimize your campaigns, as well as build audiences and lookalike audiences. So it's a really powerful one-stop shop kind of tool. When you think about installing the Facebook Pixel, it's a pretty simple solution. So this is the code that you'll install, or an example of the piece of Facebook code. I don't put this in to scare you, but basically this is pretty similar to what the kind of code we've used in the past, very similar to the custom audience and conversion pixel code. It's a little different, and you're just going to place it across every page on your website. Typically, we recommend that advertisers place this on the header of their website. That's because the header spans across every page on the site. It's templatized. You put it in that header, and you don't have to think about it again. So it's a one-stop shop, single install piece of code. Let's talk about the 3 things you need to know about the Facebook pixel and the updated code. If you take nothing else away from this webinar, I want you to think about these 3 things. The first is that changing your code is optional. I'm going to say that again, it's optional. So if you have a custom audience pixel on your website across every page of your site right now, you do not need to change the code. The vast majority of the functionality that we're going to talk about today is enabled off the back of that existing custom audience pixel. Similarly, if you have conversion pixels on your site tracking different conversions like purchases or leads, those are going to continue to work. You're going to be able to continue to be able to track conversions, to be able to optimize against those conversions for the foreseeable future. We are currently looking at deprecating the conversion pixel, so making it so that you no longer can use those conversion pixels, starting in the second half of 2016. So you've got a good year of runway before you're going to have to really get these conversion pixels changed out. So if you're going into a Q4 code freeze, or you're worried that it takes forever to get on your developer's to-do list, don't worry about it. Your existing pixels are going to continue to work. Now that being said, the second thing I want you to know is that the Facebook pixel is the future of tracking, optimization, and audience creation. This is the pixel code that we are going to be basing our product development on moving forward. And as you guys probably know, the Facebook engineering team is always innovating, always developing new products, new ways to use our products, and all of that new development is going to be based on the Facebook pixel. So if you do see an opportunity to update your code, I would recommend that you do so. And I would recommend that you start thinking about when is going to make the most sense to update this code. So if you know you have a site refresh coming in March, get this on the roadmap so that they know they need to be implementing this new pixel. If you know you're going to have resources from your site developer come January, because they always have, additional time early in the year maybe, you're going to want to make sure to get this on their to-do list now. Similarly, if you have really easy access to your site code, you have a really hands-on development team, or you're able to do it, or you're really familiar with your CMS platform, go ahead and start creating an implementation plan now. You're going to want to get ahead of this so that you're able to use all the best products and all the best practices our team is coming up with. The third thing to know about the Facebook pixel is that standard events and custom conversions are the new conversion tracking pixel. So in the next couple of slides, I'm going to go into a lot of detail about what standard events and custom conversions are and when you should use them. But here, what I want to emphasize is that if you have a new event on your web page you want to track, if you're an agency and you have a new client coming on board and you're designing a tagging strategy, you're going to start thinking about doing that measurement based on a standard event or a custom conversion as opposed to a conversion tracking pixel. So that's just the one really important thing to take away. Conversion tracking still available. It's going to be one of these two, either a standard event or a custom conversion. So let's get into that a little bit more. Let's talk about standard events. What are standard events? They are a little bit of code, a little snippet of code that you tack on, add to the end of your Facebook pixel base code. So think about that long piece of code I showed you a couple of slides ago. That's the Facebook pixel base code. That's the base code. And you're going to add the standard event code at the end of that code or below it in order to count a conversion event. What it's going to do is say, this page, this action is a conversion event that this advertiser cares about, and call it one of the 9 standard events that we enable. So is it a lead or a purchase or a search? And then it's going to do all that stuff that conversion tracking can do, attribute back to your Facebook advertising, and do optimization. So if you take a look at the code on the bottom of this slide, even if you're not a developer, it's pretty clear what this code is doing, right? It's saying this page, this event, track it. This is something that's important to this advertiser. Make sure you're counting it. Call it a complete registration and assign it a value of 75 cents USD. So I think this is, sometimes code can be intimidating, but I think in this case it's actually illuminating. It's just doing exactly what it says, tracking, calling it a complete registration, and assigning it a value. Standard events are really great for helping you to better understand the audience visiting your site and what they're doing. So let's talk about the standard events that are currently available. We have 9. They are the most requested, most used events for our advertisers. Everything from view content, which can be very flexible. It can be viewing a specific product. If you're an e-commerce site, if you're selling women's apparel, it can be, viewing handbags and shoes and dresses. If you're a media company, it can be viewing a video or a blog post, all the way to things that are a little bit more specific, like adding credit card information, adding payment info, completing a purchase, completing a registration or a lead. So that's incredibly valuable to segment out what your audience is doing on your site. You're able to see what events are they taking, what actions are they taking on your site. But what's even more valuable is being able to pass back a little bit of additional data. And that's something that standard events enable that our conversion pixel didn't enable. So you're able to pass back any of these parameters along with your standard events. So you're able to say, this view content is of content type blog post or content type video view. And that gives you so much more information into what users are doing rather than just their viewing content. Or you're able to say this purchase has 10 items in it, or 3 items, or is worth $100, or is worth $20. And again, that gives you so much more information as to what's happening on your site rather than just saying a purchase occurred. And so these parameters are incredibly important in terms of being able to segment out your traffic in terms of types of conversions and to create audiences based on people who are doing things that are really valuable to you, buying really high cart sizes, high value items, submitting leads of a type that's most valuable to you for a home loan, let's say, instead of a credit card. So this is a great way to just get a little bit of additional information back with that conversion. I think we're getting a ton of questions, so I'm going to pause here and we're going to take some questions. My colleague Dan is in the room with me and he's going to read off some of the big ones.
Yeah, we've got quite a few. We'll just start at the top. When do I need to change my code?
So as I mentioned, the conversion pixel is going to be deprecated in the second half of 2016. So I would say, by the summer of 2016, you should be using the new Facebook pixel code. That gives you a lot of time to get that implemented, but definitely get it on the roadmap so that you're able to get it in place by the time the conversion tracking goes away.
All right, let's see. Here's a good one. Can you record specific order ID numbers and get a data pool of the conversions with those numbers so you can tag a conversion back to a specific ad?
At this point, no, we don't offer that functionality. It's something that a lot of people ask for, so I certainly understand why it would be valuable. But there have been privacy concerns in the past. Our legal team deals with that, and so So at this point, it's not something that we offer.
Okay. How is the pixel recorded between multiple devices?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the pixels should load on your site, regardless of whether or not it's on a desktop site or the mobile version, the M version of your site. And then basically we're able to track the user based on Facebook identity. So we know that a user is the same person across desktop and mobile, and we're able to consolidate that information when we report it back to you.
By default, the pixel will track user conversions for 30 days. Is there a way to change that window to a shorter time period?
There is. So in our reporting, you are able to change your attribution window. For specific instructions on how to do that, I would definitely go to our help center or go to your account manager, but it's a pretty simple process and you're able to shorten the look back window of the conversion attribution.
Here's a good one. How can we increase, and I think this just needs some clarification, how can we increase the new limit of 20 conversion tracking pixels allowed? I believe she's referring to custom conversions. We use these all the time, installing at least 4 a month. So is there a way to increase that limit?
You know what, I'd love to hold on that till we get to custom conversions, but it's a great question and I'll definitely get back to it.
All right, we'll do a couple more. Do you have to assign a value to a conversion tracking code?
You don't. So if you just want to track newsletter signups because it's important to you, but they don't have a specific monetary value, you can just count those newsletter signups. No need to assign a value. Where you do have a value, where you are, driving people to purchase products that have a certain value, or every lead is worth $5 to you, I would highly encourage you add that value because it gives you so much more information in terms of what Facebook is driving from a value standpoint, but it's not necessary by any means.
And then this is kind of a follow-up to that. For the tracking pixel, rather than assign a static value, can we make it dynamically pull in a value off of a page parameter?
Absolutely. So this is something that has been able to be done with the conversion tracking pixel in the past, and you'll have all that same functionality with the Facebook pixel standard event. Instead of pulling in a value that's a fixed number, you can just add in that dynamic site parameter, and you should be good to go.
And then let's do one final. Can you generate more than one pixel in an ad account?
You cannot. There's one Facebook pixel per ad account, but I think that there's ways to use that single pixel to do whatever it is you're looking to do, so there really isn't a need to generate more than one. Great. So with that, let's move from standard events to custom conversions. So custom conversions are basically a way for you to track and optimize to conversion activities without having to place anything other than that Facebook-based pixel code on your site. So you just place that base code across every page on your site and you're able to track different URLs as conversions. So you're able to create up to 20 conversions in this custom URL format. Going back to the question that we just had about that limit, at this point this is a hard limit, so you're able to create 20 different conversions based on the different URLs. But I would say the thing you can do is additionally place the standard event. And instead of basically you're able to use those 9 standard events and change them dynamically based on different parameters, so you're able to track different conversion types based on the different parameters, as opposed to adding a bunch of new pixels. So the 20 limit on the custom conversions is a hard rule, but you are also able to use those 9 standard events. Let's talk about creating custom conversions. It's incredibly simple. So on the right of this slide here, this is the flow that you would use to create a custom conversion. Basically, you just select the pixel that you want to use, the Facebook pixel in your ad account. You select in that rule dropdown either URL is or URL contains, and then you input either the full URL or a part of the URL, define it as one of the categories of conversion, give it its own special name, assign it a value if you want, and create it. And then it's all ready for you to track and optimize. So this is a really great tool if you are having trouble getting additional code placed on your page. So I know that's been a big pain point for a lot of our advertisers, is that every time they want to track a new conversion activity, they have to place new conversion pixel code. No longer the case. You can come into this interface and say anything with a /newsletter, I want to call a newsletter lead. Anything with /blog, I want to call a blog view. Basically, you're able to create all kinds of different conversions based on the URL of your website. Very similar to website custom audiences if you've used that tool. And it's just a really simple way to go in and define new conversions quickly. So let's compare these two, because I think there's been a lot of confusion about when you would use one versus the other. So let's talk about standard events first. The pros of standard events is that your data quality is going to be a little bit better. When you place that code on the site, we have a little bit better data tracking ability. You're able to pass back parameters. So when I talked about passing back value or type of lead, that's something that's available only in standard event tracking, and it's a really huge key differentiator for this type of conversion tracking. It enables dynamic product ads. So if you're an e-commerce site with lots of different products and you want to make sure you are surfacing the most relevant product to a user when they're in newsfeed, you want to be using dynamic product ads, and you need to be enabling standard events to do that. Standard events also allow for in-page event tracking. So let's imagine you have a lead form where the person submits their lead, they click on the button, and a new page doesn't load, a new URL doesn't load, it just says thank you within the page. Standard events are going to be the way to track that event if there's no specific URL that you can use to create a rule. The big con, on the other hand, for standard events is that it requires that additional code to be placed. So again, if you have trouble getting your development team to add pixels, if you are having issues getting the implementation correct, if you don't have access to your site's code, using a standard event is not going to be the way to go. When you should think about using standard events. Anytime you want to pass back data, anytime you want to pass back those parameters, and if you have access to your site's code, you should be using standard events. So let's talk about a couple of examples of when that would be a good use case. For any e-commerce client, you are going to want to use standard events on your purchase event. So think about the case of Nordstrom's, which we've been using as an example through this presentation. They want to track people who check out, but not just that, they just don't want to track the mass number of checkouts. They want to track the total order value. How much did each of those users spend when they finally did make a purchase? You're going to be able to use that value and currency parameter to pass back the total value of that basket. That's going to be invaluable for e-commerce clients. If you are selling anything on your website, pass back the value, use a standard event. Similarly, if you want to categorize different types of conversions, you're going to want to use a standard event. So let's take an example that I had from a client, which is a university. They're a college, and they want to drive leads for their master's program. They want people to sign up for a master's degree information session. And they really only care about that master's degree. The bachelor's degree is less valuable to them. They get a lot of those leads organically, so really they want to drive masters. They can create a parameter for the lead conversion that's a content type masters. What that's going to do is say to Facebook, hey, this is a specific event that's a master's degree as opposed to a bachelor's, and allow them to segment that activity in that way, which that they care about. So again, passing back information, you're going to want to use a standard event. Let's talk about custom conversions. What are the pros of custom conversions? You don't need to add any code other than the Facebook-based pixel. So just add that one piece of code across the header and you are good to go. You're also able to track up to 20 of those separate custom conversions, which is a nice benefit. Cons, you can't create audiences segmented out by parameters. We've gone through that, so I think we're probably good on that. So when might you use a custom conversion instead of a standard event? When you don't have access to your site's code or it's difficult, or if you need more than the 9 standard events. So let's talk about an example of when using a custom conversion might make sense. Let's say that I am working on a CPG brand and we want to drive signups to our newsletter with recipes. We just want to send out recipes. There's only one type of email, that newsletter that people are going to receive. There's no value associated with it. We don't really want to pass back any particular parameters with it. And there's a separate URL for that thank you page confirming that someone signed up. That's a great use case for custom conversions where you're very easily able to say anything with / newsletter sign up, let's call that a newsletter lead. So this setup means that there are now 3 different types of conversions that you could report on. There's standard events, there's custom conversions, and there are the conversion pixels, which are going to continue to function until the back half of next year. So that has caused a little bit of confusion in terms of reporting, so I just wanted to make sure that this was really clear. You'll be able to find all 3 types of conversions right now in your Ads Manager reporting. The way you're going to do that is by customizing columns in your reporting, going to the website section. This top bit, anything that says parentheses Facebook pixel, is going to be a standard event, and you'll see that it aligns to those 9 standard events that we talked about earlier. Anything below that is going to be a custom conversion, and you're going to know these are custom conversions because they are based on your naming conventions. You selected the name for these. They don't look like the Facebook standard names. These are your custom conversions. And then anything that's a conversion pixel, that Facebook, and that conversion pixel in parentheses, that's any existing conversion pixels you have on your site. Before we get into troubleshooting, do we want to take some more questions?
We've got more questions that we can answer, but I think we've got a few that we can kind of reiterate that we've gotten several people asking. So quickly, can you assign a dynamic variable as the value to capture values of different orders?
Yes, absolutely. You absolutely can assign a dynamic variable as the value. The reason it's not included in this presentation is that each website is different. The dynamic variable is going to be different for each of your sites. Talk to your developers, talk to the people who are closest to your CMS platform to get that information. But yes, the net of that is you can use a dynamic variable as the value that you are passing back.
All right, and another common question is how do we assign standard event tracking to certain actions like add to cart? Can we add the code to a button on the site?
Yeah, you can add standard event tracking to a button on the site. So there's a little bit of a workaround in terms of modifying the code so that it just fires on that button click instead of firing when the page loads. I would recommend following up with your Facebook representative, your account manager or partner manager to get that direction. But it's not a difficult process and any developer will be able to do it.
Another common question, can you use the same standard event on multiple pages and report on them separately?
So at this point, you can't, but coming very soon will be the ability to do so. So I'm going to talk through this. It gets just a little bit confusing, so bear with me, everyone. So basically what you will be able to do is create a custom conversion from a standard events parameters. So instead of just being able to say, let's make a conversion that's type newsletter lead based on the URL, you'll be able to say, I want to create a custom conversion of type newsletter lead because of a parameter I am pulling through in my standard event. And that is something we are actively working on that should be coming shortly, and it's going to be really exciting, and so stay tuned for more information on that.
You can go ahead and keep going.
Great. Thanks, everyone, for the excellent questions. I appreciate it. I know this gets a little bit tricky. So now we're going to talk about troubleshooting. So you have implemented your Facebook base code across your entire site. You've set up the standard events and custom conversions that you need based on the different types of events you're tracking. How do you know they're working? There are a couple of tools that I wanted to point to and make sure you were aware of that are great for helping with troubleshooting. So the first is the pixel section in Ads Manager. And you're going to get to this by going to the Tools dropdown and then selecting Pixels. And this is a really great section to be able to do a quick gut check to see if things are working. And in my experience, it's one of the most underused tools that we currently have. It's fairly new, so that makes sense. But I just want to make sure that everyone knows sort of how powerful it is. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you're troubleshooting is look at this total traffic section. So this is, as you can imagine, tracking total traffic by day. And you're going to want to check that this roughly matches what you'd expect, that the daily traffic looks right to you, that it generally matches your third-party reporting. It won't exactly, but that the trends are the same and it's in the same ballpark. The next thing you're going to want to do is check the domains and URL section. So below that total traffic graph, you'll see that there are 4 little tabs there. Domains is going to show you the high-level domains where your Facebook pixel is placed. So if you have 2 different landing pages, let's say one that's organic traffic and one that's all advertising landing page traffic, and you want to put the same pixel across both of those pages, you can do that. You'll see that they're both tracked here. So this is a great way to confirm that any separate domains have the Facebook pixel implemented and is tracking correctly. The URL section is the first one here, and this is one that I think is really important. So this you're going to see different URLs and how many times the Facebook pixel has fired on those URLs. So what you want to do there is make sure that every page where you've placed that code, where you expect the code to be placed, there's traffic there and that it's roughly matching your expectations of the traffic to that section. And then the last thing to look at is events. If you have added standard event code to any pages on your site, the events that you've selected will be listed there and the traffic against them will be shown. So every event that you have coded in to a page on your website, you'll want to see there, and you'll want to make sure again that that traffic roughly matches what you expect to be associated with that event. So this is a really good place just to confirm everything looks like it's working correctly, firing across the entire site. If it's not, the best thing to do is to go to our Pixel Helper tool. And this is a Chrome plugin. You can literally Google Facebook Pixel Helper tool and find a link to where to download this. And what it's going to do is allow you to QA the pixel as it's implemented on your web page. So you download it, you use Chrome to go to your website, and you can confirm that a pixel is on that home page or on any of the subsequent pages you visit, and you'll know because that little icon you're seeing on the top right of the screenshot shows a little green 1 next to it. So that's how you know that there's 1 pixel there. It's going to tell you what type of pixel it is, the pixel ID, and some basic information about it. I want to call it the pixel ID. You want to make sure that this pixel that's on your site matches the pixel that's in your ad account. So sometimes other agencies or other teams at your company have placed a pixel that you didn't know about. You want to make sure that the one that's on your site that's functioning is the one that's associated with your ad account and tied to your ads. If there's an error with the pixel, if it takes too long to load or it's not loading correctly, you will see that in this tool. It will tell you what the error is so that you can go back to your development team or go back to the CMS and make the changes you need to make, troubleshoot. The other thing that the Pixel Helper tool does now is track standard events and make sure that they are firing correctly. So below the sort of list of troubleshooting steps on this slide, you'll see an example of an add to cart event as it's loaded successfully. So you'll see, again, the pixel type, and then an event ID, you'll see add to cart or purchase or lead or whichever standard event you've included. Again, the pixel ID, the location where it's placed, and then at the bottom there you'll see content ID and content type. These are parameters being passed back. So not only are you able to QA, yes, the event is firing correctly, but you're able to QA that the parameters are passing back correctly as well. Again, if there is an error here, you will see a red bar next to it on the left instead of a green bar, and you'll be able to go back and troubleshoot with your development team. So those are the best steps for troubleshooting, the best tools to use to figure out what's going on. So now that you've got your pixel implemented, it's working correctly, all your conversions are set up correctly, I want to talk about some more advanced measurement options and optimization solutions that are made easier and enabled by the Facebook Pixel. So the three things I'm going to talk about today are measuring the cross-device journey, tracking the full funnel, which is going to give you better insight into what's happening as a result of your campaigns and give you more flexibility from an optimization standpoint. And then I'm going to talk about segmenting your website custom audiences. People have been doing this for CRM databases for a long time. Standard events with those parameters being passed back really enable you to get as granular as possible on WCA audiences as well. So the consumer journey across devices. This is an example for some of our e-commerce clients, but basically what we see is that people are moving between different devices to make conversions. So the biggest driver of this is people seeing an ad, engaging with an ad on mobile, moving to desktop to convert. We know that this is something that's happening. Your standard cross-device reporting in Facebook lets you see this, and obviously having that Facebook Pixel enabled lets us track this. But you can actually take this a step further now and start to think about measuring the cross-device journey and understanding which actions people are willing to take on which devices. So you can measure the homepage visits and product views that you might see on mobile and see that there's not a ton of drop-off. But when it comes to adding payment info and actually making that purchase, people may be more willing to do that on their desktop devices. So this is an example of cross-device reporting in your Facebook Ads Manager available to you today. What you're going to get is the placement, so where the ad ran, and then the device where the user is taking the action. Where are they converting? Is it on a desktop? Is it on an iPad, an iPhone? And what I'd recommend is instead of lumping together all the website conversions like it has here, you're going to segment out the different types of conversions. So you're going to say how many homepage visits are happening, and that's based on a custom conversion I've created with the /homepage URL. How many add to cart are happening, and that's a standard event I've added as an on button click event. And finally, how many purchases and what's their order value, and that's another standard event I've created. So you're able to track that full funnel and what's happening on different devices. That's important if you think about things like how you measure and optimize. You may want to measure and optimize your mobile campaigns to drive the most product views possible, but think about your desktop campaigns as something that's going to drive that full conversion event and where you really want to be getting the maximum return on ad spend. The next thing I'm going to talk about that really flows from that is tracking across the funnel, making sure that you have conversions set up for every step of the process. And this is where having that flexibility between custom conversions and the standard events is really great. So if you decide, hey, there's actually a step in this process that's signing up before you can actually add your payment info, it's registering. I want to track what the drop off of that. Use a custom conversion to quickly create that without having to add any additional code to your page. Similarly, you can place those standard events on events activities that you know are always going to be important to you, things like that final thank you page. What this allows you to do is to start to get a little bit more data in terms of what's going on. So if you see that there's a big drop-off between product views and add to cart, you may want to use that product views audience as your primary retargeting audience because you get a lot of great volume and you're able to get a ton of efficiency there. Or it might prompt you to look into your conversion flow. So if you see there's a huge drop-off at add payment info, for instance, you might think about, is there a simpler way for me to enable people to add their payments here? Am I doing something to get in the way of the final conversion? It also allows for easier optimization and sort of flexibility of optimization. So let's take this example. You're a women's retailer and you are promoting this tank top for summer. You put 1 million impressions into market, you've got a 2% click-through rate, so you get 20,000 clicks to your landing page. 10% of those people will put the item in their cart, so you get 2,000 people there. 10% of those people convert, so you get 200 ultimate conversions. If you optimize to that final thank you page, you're giving the Facebook algorithm 200 pieces of data to optimize against, which is good, but maybe if you moved it up the funnel to the checkout page and gave it 2,000 pieces of data to optimize against, you'd get better volume, better results, because we just have more data to work with. And so measuring that full funnel, having that full set of conversions is really going to help you be able to flexibly move between those. And then the last thing I want to touch on quickly, because I know we only have 8 minutes left, but I think it's important, is segmenting your website audiences. So you want to think about segmenting your website audiences in terms of 2 dimensions. How interested are they? How far in the funnel did they get? And time. How long ago did they visit? So let's take these 3 users as a use case. The first guy visited yesterday, but he searched for a product, he looked at it, but he didn't add it to its cart or anything, and he left. The second woman visited 7 days ago, and she bought your highest value item. She bought the Chanel handbag for a pretty high ticket price. And then the third user visited 30 days ago. He signed up as a member, but he hasn't been back since. You're going to want to treat each of these audience segments differently. So this first person, standard retargeting, right? You want to showcase the product he looked at, try to engage him, get him to buy, but after 7 days, 14 days, if he doesn't convert, he's probably not going to, and you can let him drop out of your pool because he's probably not a really efficient person to go after. This second woman, by contrast, is going to be really important to you, right? She is a big ticket purchaser. You're going to want to show her other high value items from time to time to make sure that she's aware that not only do you have the Chanel handbag, you have Gucci shoes. And so re-engaging her, keeping her in that high value audience is going to be really important. Also, could be a great user segment to build a lookalike audience off of. These are your highest value users, and you want to find more people like them, more people who are willing to buy those big ticket items. So use these really high value users to build lookalike audiences. And finally, the third man who's a member but hasn't been back in a while, he's really a potential to be a lapsed customer, right? So you want to re-engage him. Maybe there's a particular offer for members. Maybe there's some new product or promotion that you can let him know about. He's someone you're going to want to make sure you're trying to get in front of and re-engage before he lapses. So this is all information that is enabled by those standard events and parameter tracking. It's really going to let you get very granular in terms of who's coming to your website, what they're doing, and sending them the most relevant message. And then I'm going to quickly go through the user flow here. It's pretty simple. We can skip over this retargeting users who visited certain pages because you probably are all very familiar with that. What I'm going to focus on is this right-hand section here. So this is where you're going to be able to select your Facebook pixel, choose a custom combination, and then pick an event. So instead of just creating a website custom audience from a URL, you're going to say, I want to find people who purchased and who made a premium purchase. They have a value higher than $100, for instance, within the last 30 days. And so that's a great way to reach people who are, sort of the highest value users on your website. It's a very simple process, and we'll send more information on how to in follow-ups. So with 5 minutes left, do we want to go through any last-minute questions?
Yes, let's do it. How do the parameters show up in reporting? Are they shown?
They're not shown in reporting right now. Again, this gets back to that update that's coming soon, we hope, that will allow you to create custom conversions based on different parameters, and that's the way you'll segment it out in reporting. Also important for creating custom audiences. So again, this interface on this slide, you're going to be able to create custom audiences, build lookalikes from it based on parameters. So where you want to segment that traffic, including parameters, is going to be really important for that audience building piece.
If the pixel is placed in a tag manager, will this cause issues with the URL parameters set for custom conversions of audiences?
That's a great question. I don't believe so, but not being familiar with exactly which tag manager you're using, I wouldn't want to give you any false information. So this is one where reaching out to your Facebook account manager or partner manager is probably going to be your best bet.
This is one on the different standard events. What is the difference between the event page view and the event view content?
So a page view is just going to be any page view. View content is something you want to specify. So it's a particular product or a particular event that you want to specify. Maybe it's a blog post or video view. Page views, again, everything, every single page view on the site, we're calling a page view event.
This is kind of going back to the dynamic value. Are you able to pass back the total value of a purchase? For example, they buy 3 items and we see the total purchase, or do you have to assign a value to each product or conversion?
It's a great question. You can pass back the total value. As long as there's a parameter on your site that's the total, which I would assume there is because I don't know a lot of consumers who add up individual products to figure out what they're going to spend, you should be all set.
And to measure the full funnel, should we put a standard event code on each step of the purchase process?
It's a really good question. If you have the ability to change your site code, I would say yes. Again, that standard event code has a little bit better data quality. So if it's available to you, standard events are the way to go. That being said, if you aren't able to easily add in those standard events, using custom conversions is a great option, particularly for things higher in the funnel where maybe data quality isn't as much of an issue. So I really care about every purchase and making sure I'm tracking every one of those. But if I miss a few homepage visits or here or there, it's probably less important. So when possible, standard events, but also custom conversions if you don't have access to it.
This one is a good question that I think I've got a few requests on. If they want to switch to the new Pixel, will switching in an active campaign from their existing Pixel to the new one affect ad placement?
I would not recommend switching with an active campaign. So I think what I would recommend is placing the new code, testing it, making sure it's working, and then switching over any new campaigns if you have active campaigns that you want to switch over once you're sure that the new pixel is working, it shouldn't impact that at all. But I would say place it, make sure it's working correctly before you do any switches.
Getting quite a few questions on Google Tag Manager. So can you still add standard event code when you are using a tag manager like Google Tag?
Yes, you can absolutely use standard events with Google Tag Manager. Very similar to the way you would have used a conversion pixel with Tag Manager. You're just going to be placing that standard event code instead. Cool. Sounds like we're good. We're at time. Thanks everyone for joining, for the great questions, and we are going to follow up with some more how-tos for you tomorrow. I know you're all really excited to get implementing, so thank you again for joining.